Here I am, the one that you love, asking for another day. Is that like Air Supply or something? Yeah, I don't know where that came from. If you've ever talked to me, watched me, and we're talking, and my eyes do this. You just said a line of a song. It started going through my head. I may not be hearing what you're saying. I try really hard not to do that, but I relate to the world through music. Like my journey to God starts with Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. But before that, I had to learn German to understand the words of the fourth movement of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. And then it went through a lot of iterations, including a really memorable moment at the top of Machu Picchu. And the Andes are really cool. They come to a point and you can actually hike to the pointy part of the mountain and be at the point, not just, we draw points, but we all know when we get to the top of a mountain, it's usually kind of a little, not in the Andes, man. That's one of the cool parts of Machu Picchu. I also learned that as long as you go slow and steady at a high altitude, if you just move in slow motion and don't stop, you will get to the top of the mountain. But the minute you stop and rest, you've just reduced the chances that you're going to get there. So there I was. We had decided that the holler was going to transform into a community where we have owners, stewards, we have a mass permaculture design, hopefully influenced by somebody in the back of the room, Alan. I want to get Alan and Jack involved in this, where we aggressively grow regenerative food and we make space for what I call our underserved nomad population who can come through and park their campers. And to get this started, I decided rather than buy land, because that wasn't happening very quickly, we would use what we have to do what we can so that we were taking one step at a time. And one of the steps I decided would be really fun, I called Chef Ken. And I'm like, he thinks I'm going to call him to ask how to launch my next commercial coffee brand, right? Because Holler Roast is all roasted by me, and there's a ceiling on my spreadsheet where if it's not roasted by me or my roasting assistant, we can't do it. But if I outsource to a large commercial roaster, it will not taste the same. And so last year, I was like, I know, I'm a woman-owned business, first of all, so I can go after government contracts if I really want to, and I have an advantage. 2, I could outsource the roasting of coffee and make lots of money. And he thought I was going to talk to him about that. So I call him, I'm like, boop, 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 boop. Hey, Ken, can we talk? And he goes, and he's like, what's up, Nicole? I'm like, so I've had this message and a calling to turn the holler into this other thing. And in order to do this, I'm pretty sure what I need to do is a cheese class. And he's like, well, that's not what I was expecting you to say. We had a great conversation, and the poor son agreed to fly out to the holler and teach the class with me. And then we added, because community is so powerful, right? We added this layer of a wild edible walk before, and then there's a chef so you can fold the wild edibles into the lunch that is served. And it was referred to as the eating class by the end of it. So anybody who knows me knows I don't like to do things in halves. So of course, the week before this event, I was making a lot of cheese, right? And while Ken was there, I thought we could have a strategy session about the Holler Hub development, which is my nickname for that community. And Andy was coming in, and Joel Riles was going to be there, so we could talk about something important in this community, and that's money. Because I benefit from money advisors. We'll just put it that way. Is that a good way to say it, David? Agreed. And so I thought, well, cheese class will be done Saturday. I can totally do this little meeting. Having forgotten that when you say yes to a speaking engagement, it's always a good idea to look at your calendar. And it turned out that right after the strategy session, I needed to be 1.5 hours away from my house giving a talk. And guess what the title of that talk was? Build abundance, not burnout. So I stand here before you, a hypocrite, And I stood there before them, a hypocrite. But I will say, I gave that presentation with a beer in my right hand. It was a great presentation, and I admitted at the beginning that I was burnt out giving the talk, and they had a good laugh. And then we talked about how do you build abundance and not burnout. And sometimes it's better to start from the addict's perspective, and that's what I'm going to give you today. The first question I have for you, and you can actually talk to me in my presentation, it's okay. You can ask me questions as we go. If I don't think it fits, I'll ignore you. Jake. What really matters in your life? Yeah.
Health and family, number one.
Health, family. Okay. So we got health, family. What else?
Community.
Family, God, community, happiness. Thanks. That one's easy to draw.
Money.
Money. Oh, money did show up. Did you notice where money came in on this list? Money's not insignificant, but when I talk about building abundance, I'm thinking of it not just in the terms of wealth and things coming off of your homestead and all of those things that we think of when it's abundance, right? It's abundance of relationship. It's abundance of community. It's abundance of economy. And how do we do all of those different things and not burn out? Has that ever been a problem for anybody in this room? So in 2025, I embarked on a journey, and I was motivated from a piece of data I got last year that we talked about, where 80% of my income came from 20% of my work on hollow roast coffee, which made people's hearts hurt because that meant I could have so much more if I put it more into hollow roast coffee. My challenge being, personally, I love roasting coffee. I am so stinking excited about these tins, which I wanted to be able to produce last year, to be able to send you coffee in a tin can that is sealed and roasted to order, partially thanks to Ken finding me the can sealer in Houston, Texas. But I don't just want to roast coffee all day, every day. To me, that doesn't bring me better relationships.
Does not spark joy.
It does not spark joy. It does spark joy when I'm doing it and I'm like dancing and singing to the music in the shack for a limited amount of time. And so I know something about business. When you decide you want to do a thing and you put all your effort into that and you make it successful, if that thing that you build is not a thing you love, you have just built yourself something as bad as having a job where you feel like your life is being lived for you. Even when you're your own boss, you have built something that is your own job. And I love homesteading. I actually like going out into the garden and playing with my plants and making videos about killing my plants or not killing my plants, depending on how the day went, or shearing the cutting the hooves of the sheep as part of the sheep care. I love doing those things. But how can you do those things if they don't bring in money? Because to Matthew's point, part of abundance is to be able to pay for a thing when you need the thing. Right? It's an important form of capital. And the capital that I am best at building is not that one. Which one is it, David? He says, giving up my time for me. My social capital account is pretty full. Because of that, I have a can sealer that arrived to be able to make this, right? Because he heard I was looking, and in his market, there was one. So bringing those things into balance, I embarked on a journey and looked at 10 different homesteads. I went out and visited most of them. I had one interview. In 2025, I toured their fields. I looked at their processes. I sat down with the founders and said, what are you doing? Are you making money? How do you feel? How are your relationships? And I discovered something. There are a lot of burnout homesteaders out there, my friends, especially if you go visit them in August. And that is something everybody should do. Go see the burnt out homesteads. Because I also discovered 3 who were not out of those 10. And they shared openly with me what they were doing. And it helped me discover a couple things. And the first thing is there are primarily 3 kinds of homesteads out there. Homestead number 1 is called a scrapstead. What is a scrapstead? This is the person who starts homesteading because they're passionate about it and they use every scrap they can and they tap into waste streams and they work their butts off to eke out a living. And that is their starting point for homestead. And if they were to look at a $25 tin of hollow roast coffee, they would never spend the money on that because you can get Folgers for, I don't know, $4 or $5 a pound now at the store. That's because they're in the scrapstead mindset. Okay? Homestead number 2, there's a number of you here who have this. You have the hobby homestead. Right? You also have something else. You also have a job. Jack, you kind of actually have a hobby homestead plus a job in your podcast.
Yep.
I'm not judging if you are type number 1 or 2. You just know what your type is. Now, the hobby homestead plus a job, what does that mean for you? Better have a good job. There's some benefits there. There are some weaknesses as well. And then there's a third type of homestead, and that's the stacked homestead. This is where your homestead is your job. So the stacked homestead tends to have more than one kind of revenue. It's amazing, right? You're like a 2.5. You are. Well, the cool thing is your journey can go, you can start at one and end at another or end where you want to be. The key point is everybody's journey is different. And there are strengths and weaknesses among these. I am purposely not explaining the stacked homestead right now for those of you who are uncomfortable about that. We'll get there in a second. Let's talk about pros and cons of a scrapstead. What is a positive thing about scrapsteading that you get when you do that? Yeah, you start there and you have time because that's what you have. Yeah, it's low cost startup. Yeah, so resourceful. I would say it builds some skills, and one of the skills it can build if you do it right. Scrapsteading. Yeah, so critical thinking. I have one more that's missing. And the thing that it will give you is a really, really good story to tell. It'll give you a really good story to tell. What's the negative? What's the negative? Yeah. Yeah, you are not wrong. Okay, negative side of scrapsteading. Divorce. Okay, what else? Exhaustion. What? Broke. What else?
You're working with things that just aren't perfect.
It's not pretty usually. I know one person with a scrapstead who he also made it beautiful. So that's not always the case, but most scrapsteads are not pretty. No resilience. Why do you say that? Tell me more about that.
Because if something fails and you can't fix it, you don't have resources.
We just learned about keeping our bodies resilient, didn't we? Who is the primary form of capital on your scrapstead? What if you sprain an ankle?
Okay. It's
Right?
primary person dependent. PPD.
Yeah, PPD. Okay.
You're scattered. You're scattered. You're putting out fires everywhere.
Yeah, you're always.
Hey, Nick, you ever been here? Did you ever get a call from your wife about a pig that got out at my house while you're at my house, huh?
I thought you hadn't been to my place.
Okay. Yeah, it's a time thing. You have time, but you also do not have time. Ask me how I know. So, an example of a scrapstead that turned around really well is a friend of mine Matthew, who started a farm in Tennessee called Centerville Farms. But that's not what it was called when it happened. He was a musician in 2019 making money. And then guess what happened? Ooh, not a lot of gigs. So he had like $15,000 or something saved up. And he bought a piece of land with an unlivable single wide on it. By unlivable, I mean no heat, no power, no water. Meth heads had been in there living. It was a nightmare. And he lived in a tent in the winter in Tennessee while making part of that by gleaning free things from, his community to make it livable enough that he had one room with like a spare heater while also growing vegetables and starting to sell them while also making videos about it and putting them on YouTube. And eventually, within a year, festival where people came in and bought tickets. And the reason I know him is I spoke at that festival the first year. And that has eventually leveraged into being sold into a bigger property with a self-built house with a nursery business that is profitable 5 years in. It took them, like they had enough to live. They are profitable 5 years in. People wait for him to launch his native Tennessee plants. Guess where he got his stock? No, he went into the woods and got his stock. Native.
Native was your clue.
Right? And the other way he makes money is by doing permaculture consoles. So he's stacked now. He's no longer a scraps. He also worked with Billy Bond on the scrapsteading book. He's the person who,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. I know who that is.
yeah. So that was a scrapstead. So, but he definitely went through. He did not get a divorce, but there was a moment where he stopped doing the event that he used to do annually. Like when the kids started coming, the festival stopped happening. Right? Okay. Let's think of hobby homestead pros. What's the pro of having a hobby homestead? How many have a hobby homestead here? Lots of hands in the air. Yeah. Okay. What's the good thing about that?
You have money.
You have money. You can tailor it to your happiness. Yeah,
Get toys.
You get toys. Anthony? Antonio, sorry.
I would say with the hobby homestead, it's fairly easy to maintain versus having a massive one as long as you have limited supply.
Speak for yourself, my friend, but okay. Easy to maintain. Okay. What else? If it fails, you don't starve. Yeah, you have a safety net. You are net.
Put that on a shirt.
Anything else?
I got some cons.
Yeah, we're gonna go cons next. Jack's like, I've got some cons. What's the con of it? Huh? There's the spouse. We keep coming back to this spouse problem this morning. It's the third time. What else?
2 jobs.
You now have 2 to 7 jobs.
It's hard to leave.
It's hard to leave
That's the big problem.
unless you're David Siegler. Unless you're the automation master in the room. What else?
That's what David's livestock is fish. They don't care if you
in the hobby homestead, you'll see people, and this is where Jack and me kind of hit critical failure. You don't starve if any particular thing fails. You'll do 5,000 things. So
Yeah.
you get squirrel syndrome a lot easier on the hobby side.
Squirrel! This is not what talk to the squirrel means. Yeah. Actually, the fact that you have money can be a problem here.
Yes.
Yes.
And it can be a problem for other homesteaders when you sell your eggs for $2 a dozen. You people out there are selling your eggs.
I would say, just on the humorous side, your first egg will cost you $1,800.
Your $1,800 egg and your $400 tomato. You know, he does not have the 400. It's the $7,000 squash. But it made it. Screw those squash vine borers. What else? Anything?
It's easy to fight nature.
Tell me more.
You could try to grow a lemon tree up in Montana if you want.
Yeah, you can kind of get ridiculous with it, right? What does all this lead to? Burnout.
Anger, hatred, and rage.
Anger, hatred, and rage. I have now convinced everybody in the room to stop homesteading, haven't I? Yeah. So what's a stacked homestead? I think the easiest one to put in my head, it's a homestead that has a balance. There's a nice word for a Libra to say. It has a balance of revenue streams that can provide stability. So if one fails, you have the other one. Ongoing resilience for when your body is not as excited about moving those water troughs later in life. And it brings in money, not just for you, but for your community. So it's fostering the community. And the one that's easiest to think of, if you know much about them, is Polyface Farm. So we'll look at that one first. So who doesn't know the story of Polyface Farm? Okay, I'm going to go back. So Joel Salatin's father bought a piece of really crappy land. Sound familiar, Jack? And the primary problem with their land is it had been overgrazed and abused, and topsoil had gone away. And when they moved in, there's some slopes, bare rock in places, soil, and locals laughed at them. And what his dad did, because his dad was already an organic farmer in a previous position, but he was also an economist, so that's a good thing to marry together, is they rotated cattle every day. And because they couldn't sink posts, they built tires, I think with concrete in them, and the post, and he said he'd come home from school and they'd be driving around the farm, throwing them out to move the cattle, and they rotated cattle. And what happened as they did this over time is the no soil rocks, like a scab, it started closing in. I've actually seen this at my house with my sheep. I have an area that was all rock that I was like, dang, Joel was right. That does work, right? Starting to get some topsoil and some grass growing. And that was all going on while Joel was growing up. I think because Joel's father was an economist, he was empowered with that business mindset because he, at a very young age, started doing farm endeavors. And I think he first started with rabbits, then went to chickens. His father saw somebody with a rotational, with a moving coop tractor. Yeah, it was a rabbit tractor, I believe, to begin with. Made rabbit tractors, said this is for the birds, and those were all there. So when Joel wanted to do chickens, he had that as a resource. So he scrap-steaded some tractors, and he raised chickens rotationally. Before he'd done that, he had been selling raw milk at the farmer's market and other things. So he came out of college a journalist and was working in town. He's married, and they are putting away everything they can into savings. And she is a great homemaker, growing the garden, harvesting the food, canning the food, sewing the clothes, doing things to keep costs down. And after he'd worked for a few years, he realized, he was hobby farming at that point, right? He realized I have enough savings, I can quit my job and we can make a real go of this. He lived in his parents' attic. His monthly expenses were $300 a month all in. And it took him 1 year to be able to make a decent living, 2 years to turn his first profit. And if you look at how Polyface is organized now, there's an on-site country store. They host events. They sell premium regeneratively raised meat. Joel is a great connector, so he speaks at events and earns revenue from books he's written and speaking engagements. And he doesn't have to keep writing the books every week, right? The money keeps coming in from that. And he's taken a multi-generational approach. Well, how many years has he been working from my chickens made a profit to writing books about it to where he is now? Anybody know? He's been working on his stack for about 40 years. But he had his stack well in hand by 10 years in. And he had his profit first. So he had his priorities right. And this is the stack. You start with a core product. What's my core product? Besides sheep. Right? You have a core product that's making money. He has a service layer. What do I mean by service layer? He teaches people. He also hosts events. He provides a service on his farm, right? He gets it to be, he figures out how to distribute it. He has something scalable that generates recurring revenue. What does he have? People kept asking him, how do you do the things? He wrote it down, self-published, and you can buy his books. You can buy his first book. You can buy his latest book. What does that engine, if we're thinking about energy engines like we were talking about earlier, what does that engine do for his core product sales? Increases them. What does that mean he can do to the price? Because everybody knows the story of his products. And he can get more land and put more infrastructure in. And the other thing is that community ecosystem piece in a stacked homestead. So these pieces are often all already in process in the other two types of homesteads. But when one gets stacked in the right way, it starts being an engine and stops being a like something that's pulling you back, right? You're no longer ball and chained. He can leave his homestead. You know why? Because Daniel runs it. Daniel can leave his homestead. You know why? Because at the height of the year, they have 22 employees into a system that knows what it's doing and works and gets it done. And they do farm tours. And all of that together is enough to support, I think it's, I mean, they have 22 employees, but it is probably 10, 12 families that are making a full-time living off of one farm. But then there's the add-ons. And this goes with the community ecosystem. When he could not get the processing he needed because the processor he was using was about to go out of business, do you know what they did? They invested in that one because they trusted them. They already had the relationship. They came alongside. We'll take a percentage. We'll send all our meat to you. It's guaranteed product. And they made that happen. When he needed a local grain mill, what did he do? Found a Mennonite with one in the barn they were about to trash because there's a big family argument about if it was worth having. And now they're providing feed multi-states, right? So he's always invested back into the community. And if you work on his farm and you come to him at the end of your stewardship time and you say, you know what, I have an idea about a way to make money on the farm. And your answer is not rotate your pork, Joel. Instead, your answer is, what if I built a tiny cabin here and rented it to people coming to events and farm tours and made it an experience? If it's valid, he'll sit down with you and let you do that. His philosophy is there's always room for more on the farm, right? So that's a stacked homestead. Does that seem impossible to reach when you hear it? Does that seem like a lot of work? How does it relate to your abundance on your hobby homestead? It's the same stack. It's the same stack. If you want to analyze, like, what's the best thing to do? You're like, yeah, that's a great idea, but I don't have 40 years. Let's talk about another one. Third Day Beverage Company, another local Tennessee company, because, of course, if you're going to go to 10 homesteads in your meat, you do it all in Tennessee. They came to a homestead and started growing their own meat, started selling things at the market, started canning, keeping costs down. He was working full time, so they were not scrap steading. They were hobby farm plus a job. And people kept coming to their farm and filling up jugs of water from their spring. They did that for about 5 years before it occurred to them. Because the water was there, they hooked it up to their house, right? Like no thought at all. Something like 250 gallons a minute coming out of that thing. Like, it's a lot of water coming out of that spring. They get it tested, and without any treatment, it's bottleable. Straight out of the ground. So they were like, let's sell our water. If you go to HEB or something and see Genesis Water, that's them. They are currently building in their community a bottling factory, and they have a plan with their employees. On Friday, it's a book club, no work. We do the book stuff, and to set it up in a way they would want, but also profitable. But he also had contacts through distribution through his former job, which means they are distributing nationwide. The only reason they haven't come to Walmart yet is they're not ready to produce at that level. To get it done, though, guess what they did? You know those giant trucks you see on the road that have tanks? There's a little code in the back that tells you what's in the tank. Their code is water. And they drive it from Tennessee to Texas, and they bottle it here and then ship it from there to different places until they finish building their factory. So before this talk, I called him and I said, but are you profitable? You know what he said? The startup costs were pretty big because it was $20,000 in water testing, I think, and some other things. He said, this month is our first month that we're profitable for the month. And another 6 months on the trajectory we're on, we're profitable and have paid back all our startup costs. So how is their homestead stacked? They have a core product. Do they have anything else? They have community built, and they have people actively talking about their water and pushing their water. And they participate in community events rather than start them. It's okay to do your community piece by coming to this workshop, for example. That's all they have in their stack. They don't have the whole stack. Is that okay? They're 18 months into a water business. You don't have your whole. So if you're going to avoid abundance or build abundance and avoid burnout, you can't just build the stack all at once, or what's going to happen? You're going to burn out. So let's talk about pros of a stacked homestead. What are the pros? Multiple revenue sources. Resilience, yeah?
You're almost forced to build it to where you have labor. You have to.
Yeah, forced to integrate help. Yeah. Yeah. What else?
Beyond resilience is anti-fragile.
Yeah.
One or two things fall apart.
Yeah.
Still got other sources of revenue.
Yeah, when my coffee market fell out from under me this year, I had other revenue streams, right?
You have a story, no brand.
Oh, we got a story again. Yeah.
You have more freedom because you can hire employees and take them up.
Okay. What about cons?
Higher management responsibility.
Employees.
You have people. Yeah.
If the pro is a con.
That's not wrong.
It takes time.
It takes time and focus, right?
by doing it too much.
You can ruin the thing you love. That's true.
You have to treat it like a business.
I don't know, that's a con.
Like it's not passive.
Okay, let's go back. What really matters to you? Health, family, God, community, happiness, money. None of you said putting numbers into spreadsheets. Not one of you. I know some of you do, but you didn't say it. It didn't come out first. If you don't track, the stacked homestead will cost you way more money and make you way more burnt out than everything's been, right? So there's a big burnout risk here because of those multiple streams. And then because it can be complicated to have multiple streams, right, Matthew? If you don't track it, it gets you in trouble. Like one of the best things about working with Matthew, for me, has been I had to tell him what my finances were, which meant I had to put systems in place to track it better. Yeah, you pushed me that direction too. People had a fun time. I made $333 for 25% of my time. And when I told somebody that the other day, they said, "Oh, thank God you didn't lose money, Nicole." I'm like, "Oh, I lost money." And a lot of my speakers don't charge me there, right? So it's not from the effort, without the effort of the community. You know what I got there from a capital standpoint, though? Social capital. So then the question is, for that one, do I keep doing that? Because $333 for that much of my time, not worth it. Or do we change how we do it? It's a volunteer event and we have 4 other people helping it, so it's not 25% of my time. Or like, how do we make it profitable? But without tracking it, I don't know to ask that question. And that is part of the homestead revenue stack, right? It's building community capital, but it may not, like, so is this. This underline that statement, and it can really make you hurt a little bit. I actually kept him on the phone 10 more minutes once I told him how much money I didn't make on SRF this year. He's like, "Oh, Nicole,
I'm glad I wasn't.
my heart hurts for you."
I was like telling the teacher you didn't do your homework.
Yeah. So what's the key thing here? What's another? Are there any other cons for the stacked? You can see it here by me. I wrote it up there for you so you would really know. For all of this, you want to tap the pros and kill the cons. If you're really going to avoid burnout, taking a good look at 25% of your year going to a festival that's not making you money. Like if I had that time back this year, how much faster would the tin have been out this year once I figured out how to do it? It would have been out this summer probably.
Oh,
Right.
What about that story though?
It's
It's a killer story.
It's a killer story, man, right?
AI can write the story.
Yeah.
That stories can be invented. What do you
But-
say, Patrick? Never let the truth get in the way
Yeah,
of the story.
that's really true. That was just good anyway. So then you have a homestead revenue stack. That's you. You have the add-on. So the cool thing about add-ons. So let's talk about a pumpkin patch. It's fall right now. Core product, pumpkins. What's the service layer of a pumpkin patch? It's the corn maze. You better have a corn maze. You better have hay rides. Pictures. Thank you. High five. What could your scalable thing be? Pumpkin pie. An Ichabod horror story that goes along with it that you filmed at your place that is out for sale. Right? Community. How are you building community? You have people coming through there all the time. You know what's also in your pumpkin store? What's in your pumpkin
Now I'm
store?
interested.
You've got pumpkin pie. You've got pumpkin spice lattes. You've got scarecrows made by the lady down the street. All of those things are add-ons. The scarecrows made by the lady down the street, or the apple butter starts the next stack. So sometimes you have your own add-ons. Sometimes you have somebody else's stack involved. That's starting to be real community, right? Where we help each other economically and it complements. Okay, so that's the apple farm down the street. What's their core product? Not apple butter. It's apples. What happens when apples grow on trees? They do sometimes grow worms, but also sometimes there are apples that you do not want to sell as apples, and you make them into things like apple butter. Sometimes it's windy, and what happens to the apples on the trees? What are those called? Cider and
But it's not something everybody would do. I have a friend, member of the show community,
Jack raised his hand.
that he has an apple orchard,
Yeah,
and they have to prune every year.
have to print. That's
And they have a
exactly what I was.
laser engraver,
Yeah,
and they make these plaques from the pruning, and like lock
that's a
them.
great add-on.
Yeah,
Do you know what the scalable thing is from the apple orchard? The pruning class that's digital. You know the services he can do? He can help prune other people's trees. How many people don't know how to prune their trees? Hands are up. I just finally learned this year to do it the right way by bringing somebody else to show me on my, because I was like, I'm on the phone, I'm with a camera with Nick. That doesn't work. He'll try, but you know. No, I was like, Carrie,
other limb.
you screwed up, Nicole. And how does that apple orchard build community? They might do you pick. That brings people in. Well, once you have people in, what are you going to do? You're going to start your country store. You're starting to see some things here, right? What about the pig farmer? That's polyface, right? The pig farmer is, again, another one of these. You had add-ons, and then they started one, and they federate, and they work together. That's what the community ecosystem part is of the homestead revenue stack. And so I think the biggest question today is, what is your stack? What is your stack? Who wants to be my guinea pig? We'll run you through the stack. Anyone?
I'll be a guinea pig.
Okay. Let's say that. Antonio, come up. No, come on. Antonio, what's your core product? Whales? Okay.
I'm interested.
Where did my eraser go?
This story is about target market.
You want to know what I do back at home?
Now, what's your core homestead product?
Let's say eggs.
Eggs. Okay. And if you have a service, just tell us about your farm real quick.
Sure. So I'm a home.
You're going to say it to the mic so people.
Hi, everyone. Great to meet you all, and happy to be here. So back home in Pittsburgh, I'm a home improvement contractor. I've been doing that since I was 20 years old. So coming up on 25 years. I'm also a landlord, and I flip real estate. I'm a trader in the financial markets, and I'm also a musician. But there's nowhere else I'd rather be than right here with all of you for the next few days. So this is wonderful. And real quick, a big round of applause for everybody that's presenting up here. If we could do that real quick, that'd be great.
You do that later. Tell me about your homestead.
Okay, homestead. I grow a garden. I grow broccoli. I do want to get into a lot more peppers.
Okay.
I have chickens. I harvest eggs.
So your most successful product is eggs?
Absolutely.
Okay. Service layer you can add because you know how to raise chickens. Do you do meat birds?
No.
Okay.
No, just layers.
Okay.
So to add to that,
What would so do you have a service layer related to your eggs?
No,
or
I don't.
No.
Fertilizer. Chicken processing.
Fertilizer.
Class. Got a lot of chicken food.
Processing class, yeah. Except for he doesn't do meat birds. But he could do eggnog class.
How many birds? do you have?
He could do, how many birds do you have?
5.
5. He could do a class on how to build a really cute chicken coop for 5 birds so the backyard. Yeah, like you could do classes for sure. What else?
I did custom build it, and it has a walk-in
Right,
run as well
right.
too. So
Okay, so what's his scalable project from the really cute coop he made for his chickens?
I just thought of an idea.
Yeah, what is it?
I just thought of an idea. With that being said, I could design multiple ones and sell them to people.
Oh my
in addition
goodness,
to-
he put the designs online, and he has designs for sale. Okay. And how is he building community?
Well, yes, I am here back at home. I do donate a lot of the eggs because I can't eat that many of them. So I do give them to
Who are these
neighbors. I
people
give
who
them to
can't eat
friends.
their eggs? 5 chickens. Come
So,
on, work harder. Yeah, so he donates surplus, right?
Yes. Mhm.
So that's just a real quick one with a random person from the audience. Thank you, Antonio.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Buddy, come up. We'll do you, then we'll take questions.
Oh, you just did mine. Mine was gonna be eggs and chickens.
Just can't be original,
Ugh.
can you, buddy? Yeah.
Do Patrick. He has a big.
Patrick, come on up. What do you got? What's your core product?
I got knives,
You got knives. Okay.
sharp things.
Who took the eraser? And why has nobody bailed me out with a paper towel yet? Thank you, Diego.
Oh,
No.
No, doesn't happen.
Okay, so you got is your core product knives?
yeah.
Okay. Stand over there. Here's your mic.
Here's my mic.
Yeah. Knives.
In case you don't know,
Patrick Rorman
Scary.
from Empty Knives.
I make knives and sharpen knives and teach people how to sharpen.
And sometimes it's our sole goal at this to see how we can get him to accidentally cut himself. Just yeah. Okay. So what's a service layer? Thank you. For Patrick. Sharpening. Yeah.
I guess I also make kids too.
Yeah. That's a different stack. Well, we can do that stack after, but not in that way because that sounded weird.
Put that online. That'd be a good video. I think this is already marketed.
There's a digital market for that for sure. Yeah. Okay. So sharpening, you teach sharpening, and you do speaking, right?
Speaking.
Yeah. Wait. So what's his scalable product? I just heard it. The DVD, right? Do you have anything else scalable?
Let's see.
Chromosomes.
I'm just thinking. Yeah.
Bandages.
Bandages.
Yeah. Okay. How are you building community?
Well, you know, I'm pretty good at building community. It just takes time.
It's a large family. As funny as that is, it's not untrue because his kids go out when he's at events and bring everybody in, and I think that does actually help you connect with community. So it's not incorrect. What else?
I don't
Anything
know
else?
if I add another stack, I might get in trouble.
No. I mean, we can. What are add-ons that come off of your homestead? Soap.
So yeah, my wife makes soap,
Soap. What else?
hats,
Hats. What else?
spoons, wood
Spoons.
carvings, stuff like that.
Uh-huh. What about engraving?
Engraving,
Engraving.
Did you guys use some jewelry?
some jewelry.
Yeah. Okay, so and that's all because of the large family, guys. He can just keep adding add-ons for the rest of his life, pretty much.
But let's not talk about spreadsheets, all right?
Yeah. So your stack, are you burnt out?
No, I'm good.
Have you
I've gone
ever
through stages of
Okay, so
burnout, yeah.
when you were burned out, what were you doing wrong?
You know, I think a lot of it, and I'll talk about it
Yeah.
later about just patience, but you know, a little bit of it is just having that, like Andy talked about, having a goal, knowing what you're having a vision, having a goal, and training, you know, training towards that goal. So understand that this stuff isn't going to happen overnight. You know, it is a journey. Like talk about Joel Salton, you're talking about somebody who's got 40 plus years. You know, I've seen you go from roasting coffee in a cast iron skillet to where you are today, and give you another 5 years and where you're going to be at. So, you know, keep in mind that these successful stacked homesteads, they just don't happen overnight. It's just something that you build and learn, get a coach. You know, Nicole's a great coach to help you learn how to get to this place that you want to be. Having that vision, I think, is the most important thing. Knowing where you want to go and making progress towards it every day.
So the reason
So-
the stack for me is so powerful is it gives me a lens through which to evaluate what I'm doing. Realize things like a $333 profit from an event that takes that much time is a bad idea. And look at the things, like another thing that wasn't profitable this year were the small classes that we started doing. But the question is, are they not profitable, or can I make them profitable? Right? Being really honest about that's important.
Can I push back and say sometimes, especially starting out, it's not going to be profitable. It's an investment.
That's my point.
You're
Like,
making an investment.
you know, we have the farm to table dinner coming next week, which is probably the only farm to table dinner that's a real one in the state. I have to differentiate from a $65 dinner that has a bunch of Cisco stuff in it and some meat from a farm. Right. I've sourced everything but the peppercorns pretty much, including locally grown turmeric. Oh my gosh. For this meal. Yeah. And the guest chef is coming in and it's only $125. We don't serve alcohol. You can bring your own, but we don't serve it in that price. Well, like having that experience, people have to go through it, see the story about it before they necessarily will throw down. I was not sure I was going to start selling tickets for that. And then it's next week. Yesterday, tickets started selling for the event. So part of it's understanding the market. I had decided it's like, I'm fishing, right? How's this going to go? And learn from it. But if you don't track, you don't learn from it. And I'll know at the end of it how much money I did or didn't make. But as we've looked at it, we're stacking, right? We have the base camp lodge where we do the classes. Well, that's a beautiful Airbnb when we're not doing classes. If you want to run your event there, we have our first class booked in there in March coming up where they use the classroom in the basement and the upstairs. Done. You start looking at those different ways you can stack. And for me, the other lens of this has been how much am I losing my mind because I have to work 17,000 hours to do the thing. Renting base camp for a class, it's not a huge time suck. I'm not teaching the class. I don't have to sell the tickets. It takes out whole layers. But if I hadn't looked at the stack, I wouldn't know that. So it starts with what's your stack, but always bring in that layer of how much of my time am I investing? How much of my money am I investing or losing? So what's your stack? What questions do we have? We have 15 minutes for questions, and Diego's first. And I don't have a Jerry Springer. Okay.
No, I'm just going to run the mic for you.
Yeah, thank you.
He's your Springer.
So I'm just going to say, I don't have a homestead. I have a business. My business looks a lot like the homestead stack, and I'm trying to get more like that stack every single day. This isn't just about homesteads. This is about running a business.
Right. When I wrote this, I knew it was about more than a homestead. I think a difference is if you're running a multinational billion-dollar company, this isn't the wisdom for you. This is your like solopreneur, smaller things. I think you need to know the lane this is putting you in. For me, it's lifestyle business, right? It's not about becoming Amazon. Questions? Ken, go for it. Yeah. Questions are back there.
So when you're looking at a homestead stack, in your eyes, what kind of percentage of time are you looking at? Like you said, you provide service layers and certain things. By the way, if you haven't been to her location, the Hollow Hub, it is transformative. It's spiritual. It's beautiful. You should go. How much time should you be dedicating into obviously your core product is coffee, and you said that percentage wise, how much you make versus how much you put in. I think sometimes you can get stuck in one of the layers because you're community, right? Like you're so dedicated in community, you forget How much? What are your thoughts?
That would never happen to me. That I would get stuck in a different layer than I should be in. The answer is it depends on what your goal is with the stack, right? Where my core product is coffee and lamb right now, really, if it's a product. And my service layer is actually the podcast, which makes some money, but not a ton of money. But it sells the crap. Like I sold out of lamb in a week. It was done. Like I was on stage at SRF and I had one left and 2 people wanted it, right? And the meat is delicious. And so that's it. But I also teach. I end up spending a lot of time in the service layer that I do not charge for, which is a thing I'm changing. Like somebody just asked me for marketing help, and what I did in a past life was executive marketing coaching for product lines and companies. And I have stopped doing that for people because they pay me to do it, and then they don't do anything with their marketing foundation, right? I talked to this person. I said, I'm willing to do this for you, and I'm willing to do marketing foundations for people in this room who I think will do something with it. So I just added that back, but that's a paid service layer, right? So for me, the core product is not taking 100% of my time. And the goal is not that it does, because I don't want that. For Third Day Beverage Company, 90% of their time is the core product, and then they can add the other pieces. Like they'll end up adding a social marketing guide at some point, I'm sure of it, based on what I've seen they're doing for marketing and some other things like that. They're just not there yet. Something scalable, this is where a lot of us ignore, because the only thing we can think of are books, videos, and YouTube or plans or blah, blah, blah. Well, but that's your retirement layer. That's the thing that pays over and over and over. And more time, I think more time thinking has to be spent there beyond a video or something of that nature, right? Because you know what's scalable? You decided you want to start running butchering classes at the Holler Hub. We take one of my lambs. We don't just show them how to butcher it. We show them how to do cured meats. We do the whole thing, right? And that turns into a big business for you, like a really big thing. Well, what if in order to do that as a partnership, I'm getting 10%? That's scalable. That's like recurring revenue that comes in. And that's something I learned from you when you consult things. So I think that's a very important taste to start getting outside of the 3 things people do with your books, videos, and right. And then for me, this one is often overlooked when people are existing in their core product too much. And if you don't build the community, you don't sell the product. You don't have people like excited with me about my tins, right? You know, oh, I want one of those. And, you know, they only want one because they think it's cool. But some people want all their coffee in that. They want that metal. They want to organize their bolts in that, right? So it depends on what your goal is. And I think at different parts of your journey, you are focusing in different places for different amounts of time. Mm-hmm.
So I'll give a question first and then add context. So question first, how do you know your stack when you don't know your core product? Context, I don't know, like, at my core, I'm a teacher. I love teaching people. As soon as I learn something new, the first thing I wanted to do is go teach somebody how to do that thing. I don't even really care what it is. I just want to go teach somebody. I had a semi-successful like startup doing software development, teaching people software development, and I hated the grind on it because things change, and I dislike having to keep repeating. Anyway, so I've like started retraining myself in more homesteading and more the things that I enjoy, you know, life skills, trade skills, and I want to teach that, but like I'm not there yet to like take that to the next step. And anyway, and so it's like, so I don't know what my core product is, and so I don't know how to develop a stack. And I'm like, am I going to hold?
Oh no, Nicole, where do I start? Because I don't have my core product. Is that your question?
Basically, yeah.
Can you build the stack starting at the service layer? And what do you guys think? I did. I started a podcast. I had my service layer first. At that time, I was hoping I would get maybe paid for sponsorships or something someday. And I was answering the question, how do we do all these food preservation things? And that people just at that time, YouTube wasn't as big then. And so I built Living Free in Tennessee. And then if somebody said, how do I pickle beets? I'd say, like, listen to episode 6 or whatever. I was not roasting. I was roasting coffee for me at the time. I was not even in the universe of coffee is going to end up being my core product. And my first core product attempts were things like eggs, canned goods, different things of that nature. And none of it really resonated until coffee did. So I think if you know what your service layer is, you can start there and learn from it. Like, you don't have to have it all. The whole point of this is an assessment tool that can help you with planning. But if you go into your homestead and say, I'm doing all of these things out of the chute, you are not avoiding burnout. You are going to be very burnout and unhappy, and you are going to go back to that job at Kaiser Permanente or wherever you are, right? Okay, go ahead. We're getting close on time, aren't we? Yeah.
I kind of have an iteration on his question. I'm getting ready to sell off all of my property and move to a different part of the country.
Yay.
I want to do something that's going to be homestead adjacent, but I haven't figured out the core product around that. Would you say that there's like a generally recognized point to where it doesn't make sense to transition from scrapstead to the stacked model if you have to also do other things setting up a new property?
I think if you're setting up a new property, you should start by having a discussion about what your life goals are related to that property. And you should talk to Alan Booker, you should talk to Nick Ferguson, and think about that not only in the context of that property, but in what you want for your life. What you can do 20 years from now with your body on that property, and what it's bringing to you. Like, really drill down on the why, and not worry about your revenue stack at all until you've answered that question. This will come.
Okay.
If you already have revenue coming in a different way, do that until you're ready to start there. And when you start that process, you know what you have that is the most valuable asset. You're building the story of building out your property. And that story is what brings in the people, because they want to get involved with that. Okay, I think we're out of time for questions. You can talk to me directly afterwards. We got a 15-minute break, and then it's lunchtime. So thanks, everybody. Build your stack.